What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, some very important factors involved in the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the doubles information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. This offer ends in just about 5 hours from now. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to the market. NIO has a nice range that's been established at this 4.25 area as support and 4.5 as resistance. If we break past this, I'll be looking at 4.59. Breaking that opens the door for a nice little push. But overall, NIO is just trading sideways. It's been stuck like this within the last 2 weeks exactly, just going back and forth and back and forth. We'll have to see if we can try to get some kind of bounce. And we had some good news come out from Deutsche Bank about NIO, so I want to talk about that in just a few minutes. And then I'll break down the charts as well. So let's first go over all of this. As a reminder, today was Monday. We just had Waller and Daly giving speeches. They didn't say anything too significant, but the market still saw a bit of a dip today, a little pump and dump like move. For tomorrow, please note that we have Bowman giving a speech, and Bowman is known for being one of the most hawkish Fed speakers, so we'll see what he ends up saying. And then moving forward, I just wanted to say that we have Redbook coming out year over year. That's going to be another piece of data, and everything else is kind of minor until we get to 10 o'clock a.m. and we have the manufacturing numbers coming out. Manufacturing numbers and Dallas services numbers will also be coming out. This may cause some volatility around 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And besides that, everything else is kind of minor as we have Cook giving a speech and Bowman again. So we have some hawks giving some speeches, and we have some interesting data around 10 to 10:30 a.m., which could cause some volatility. So I'll be very patient in the process and wait and see what this ends up leading to. But that's something I just wanted to note. Moving forward for other factors, we also have our very important earnings calendar. Let me just click on this real quick. The earnings calendar, this is what it's looking like. We don't have anything that's too significant. We just have like FedEx coming out and just for tomorrow, not to mention General Mills and Nike. But like I said in my earlier videos, do not forget that this is going to be the last week of June. And then it's also going to be the last week of Q2, which means that we have big earnings coming out very soon. It's going to cause some high volatility in the markets. There's also news that came out that Deutsche Bank is expecting you to deliver 18,200 cars in June, and the Q2 volume is going to be in line with guidance. That's actually very important. I think it's going to have a big effect on NIO. So they're expecting some good sales looking at their data, and that basically puts us at about the second quarter with about 54,200 units right here. That's going to be in line with this guidance of 54,000 to 56,000. So that's very bullish. That means that next week, if this ends up being the case, we could get a big bounce on NIO. This could lead to some upside. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. On top of this, don't forget that NIO House has been opened in Hamburg, Germany, which is good news for them, getting explosion, getting a lot more growth. Now, volume is currently at about 28 million. This is a little bit below average, so we're still kind of shuffling, stuck within our range. But very soon, within a week, NIO will break the range once we get all of our data. Bank of America Securities gave NIO a neutral rating. Don't forget about the price-price ratio dipping a bit because NIO is losing some strength relative to the market. And we tend to see more green on Tuesdays 55% of the time, with lots of volatility around noon and also around the second to last hour of the trading day. That's pretty much it. As NIO is trying to expand in Europe, things are looking optimistic for it. But for the short term, I think a lot of what it does is going to depend on deliveries. So what do I see for the future? In my personal opinion, I think that NIO is trying to base at 4.25. We could be retesting our 20 EMAs. Look for a dip tomorrow. I think we're going to be retesting 4.39, then kind of shuffle a bit, then attempt to bounce. So I think we're going to be kind of dropping a little bit to 4.25, maybe go a little bit lower, then try to rebound to 4.5. And we'll see if we can get a break or a bounce from there or not. If we get that bounce, we'll be looking for a nice push to higher levels like 4.73 all over again, which is where we have this imbalance. So look for a little dip, then a bounce is the most likely possibility, and then we'll see how things go from here. That's going to be very important. Then we'll see how things progress. But I think we could dip a bit and try to rebound. And I think that's the most likely possibility. It's not going to make a crazy big move yet. I think it's going to not happen until next week. Otherwise, we're just seeing some low volume and some sideways price action. How about SPY? How is SPY looking in my opinion? We're looking kind of bearish right now. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, I think that we are due for a test of our 50 EMA. That's going to be this 540 area. We also closed below 544, which is a big sign of weakness. And then simultaneously, if you look at the daily time frame, we have this big gap that's left open. So we're going to likely come down to fill this gap. We're coming very close to do so. That is very probable. So I do see a bit more downside coming. And the daily MACD is looking more bearish as we're getting nearing a bearish cross in the PPO. So with this very bearish looking daily candlestick, there's a good chance we're going to be dipping lower tomorrow. I think we could be coming down all the way down to at least 540, if not 537. So if we lose 540, I think 537 is coming before it tries to bounce. But if we don't, just look at 540 for now. We'll see how it reacts there. But I anticipate more downside. I think that the chart looks weak, and we are looking at a move to the downside as a very strong possibility. Nvidia is no different. We actually closed towards 116. We're filling this gap down here around 116. And then if we continue to fall, there's another gap down here around the 110 area, so like right here. So I think we could dip a little lower on Nvidia and retest previous resistance, becoming support at 115. Then eventually 110 will be our next target, so the daily is showing some weakness. For Bitcoin's also dropping quite a bit. We have basically our 200 EMA around 57,900, basically 58,000. I think Bitcoin's heading right there, so it looks more bearish to me. So look for a bit more downside tomorrow. How about Tesla? Tesla's kind of range bound right now. It's just continuing to trade sideways. Now, what's good about Tesla is we have a nice inverse head and shoulders, which makes me optimistic for the next deliveries report in just about a week from now. However, we're just trading sideways for now, so there's no sign of this actually breaking out. As you can see, we like to kind of bounce off this 180 area and we kind of get rejected off 188. It's been like this for the last couple of weeks. So we're still range bound on Tesla. We're still seeing some very sideways price action. Looking at the candlestick from today where we kind of popped and dropped, Tesla might dip a bit towards 180 before it tries to rebound again. So I think there's going to be a little dip coming to Tesla, some sideways price action. So watch for that very, very carefully. The triple Q is the same thing essentially. We look more bearish in my personal opinion. I think that because we're technically below our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame, we are going to likely continue to dip lower. We look more bearish on the daily time frame. So I think there might be an attempt for some buyers to defend it and retest like 476 or so before we continue lower. And I think we're going to be testing gap support at 472. If we lose 472, we have this gap to fill down to 467. And there's a good chance that's going to happen. So watch for that. There is more downside potential. Apple's also looking weak on the daily time frame. I think we're going to be, excuse me, dipping down to 202 if we lose 206. So it could pop and drop, and then I think 206 is a strong possibility. Supermicro is looking more bearish on the daily. I'm going to be looking for a dip all the way down to this imbalance. I think that 800 is coming, then 785. So look for more downside. With IWM Russell 2000, we could retest 202 if we break through this, and we could fill this gap around 204. I think we could go a little hard to 202. We'll see if we reject or not. So be very, very patient. For Coinbase, we're looking kind of weak right here. We have a bearish looking trend. We may continue to fall all the way down to the low 200s. So watch that 210 support and see how we end up reacting. For Amazon, got a big rejection right over here. We could be dipping all the way down to 184. If that fills us, watch 182. So I see some downside potential right over here. For Meta is also dipping right here. We have 493 as key support. If we lose this, we'll be dipping down to 484. We also have this gap to fill down here on Meta. So I do think that Meta is going to dip down to 493. And we'll see if we end up bouncing or not off that. But I'm seeing a little bit of weakness. Microsoft is also dipping just a bit. I think we could come down to fill this gap. I think 445 is a strong possibility. It could still bounce later on, of course, but I see a little dip coming. Google, same thing. I think Google may consolidate right here on this 180 area. If we lose 180, then yes, I could be looking for this gap fill down to 177. But as long as we're above 180, there's no confirmation yet. So Google is showing some strength. GameStop and AMC is still trending sideways. If we do dip lower below 22, I think that GameStop may just continue to shuffle. So look for a little bit more downside and sideways price action for GameStop. AMC also has that gap to fill all the way down towards 5.3. So I think we might dip lower. 4.3, excuse me, to fill that gap. So that's also very likely. So that's it for my analysis of the markets. I went over a broad range of different tickers out there. NIO is showing some life. It could attempt to bounce a bit. I think that going into tomorrow, we're going to dip to the 20 EMA, then bounce. So that's the bounce I'm referring to. We kind of like dip a bit towards 4.37, then bounce. And 4.7 could be coming. And we also have this imbalance to fill as long as we hold our support, which is what we're doing so far. So NIO, as long as we base here, we could be looking for a little bounce. We'll see if this continues going into tomorrow. But like I said before, it might not be a massive bounce. The big bounce or big move is going to come once we get deliveries. So I'll be waiting for that. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.